Everybody, this is Gary Yao, and today I am with Frank. Frank, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gary. How are you?
I'm great. So I'm very interested in talking about today's topic. Tell us what do you want to talk about.
What I yeah, the the way this came up, Gary,
Mhm.
is um I don't watch a lot of TV.
Okay.
I I try to I mean, there's just not enough on TV to keep me interested.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I do have the TV on, and it's usually because I'm sitting next to my wife and she's watching TV,
Mm-hmm.
um, and whatever we're watching, it doesn't matter. We get our Wi-Fi, our I guess you call it cable through Spectrum.
Okay.
So, and I got to tell you, at least on Spectrum, at least during the I guess the busier times, and by busier times I'm talking about, like between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the morning, when the news is going and people are watching a lot of TV, or in the evening, sometime between, let's say, 6:30 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Okay.
Um, there is I am not kidding you, at least on Spectrum, about every 10 minutes, you see an ad where somebody is saying, I want to buy your house cash. Sell me
Yes.
your house in any condition. We buy any house, and so on and so on. And it's just amazing the amount of commercials and saturation of commercials uh, during that time. And I started thinking to myself, why? I mean, obviously, if these guys are advertising that much, they are they're making money.
There's a
You
market
don't
for it, and there's profit to be made. So of course you will see that.
well, absolutely, there's a profit to be made if they're advertising every 10 minutes. Um, again, on Spectrum, the only ones that you see that advertise a great deal nowadays are accident attorneys
Okay.
and
Yes.
and and We'll Buy Your Home Cash, which
Okay.
tells me that they're making a lot of money for them to be able to advertise that aggressively. So I started thinking to myself, well, how do they, you know, if there's so many people out, I mean, so many companies out there that are advertising that, you know, number one, how do they operate? Are they being fair? And then I had somebody, a client, that I had been talking to, this older lady.
Mm-hmm.
Um, her home needed some work.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look bad, but didn't look great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was, and I assured her, I said, look, we should be able to sell your house without you having to make these repairs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll find a buyer for your house. But I was thinking of finding a buyer that would pay what's considered retail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so long story short, she told me she wasn't ready. I kept in touch with her, but I guess I didn't keep in touch with her as well as I should have, because the next time I talked to her, she had already listed her home with one of these companies.
Mm. Soul, you might say.
What's that?
Soul, you may
No,
say.
you're right. No, you're right. No, it wasn't a listing. You're right. She was under contract
Okay.
to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
Here's where it bugged me a little bit, aside from the fact that, I was hoping to work with her, and competitively I lost out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one thing that I number one, I found surprising, and two, I found a little bit, it made me a little angry, um, was the price that they offered her.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how much she could get for the property, and she literally was getting close to $200,000 less
Okay.
than what she would have gotten if she would have listed her home and sold it to a end user, a conventional buyer.
Okay.
Um, so, it just seemed like she was being taken advantage of, and it seems like, and you used the word predatory,
Mm-hmm.
just a few minutes ago before you started the
Yeah.
video.
Mhm.
as we were discussing this, you used the word predatory, and when you said that, I thought, yeah, that seems very predatory because they're focusing on, and I shouldn't say they're focusing on anybody who will call them. They're
Yeah.
focusing on advertising to everybody.
Mhm.
But it almost seems like the people that would be more likely to call are either low income
Mhm.
and can't make the repairs that they would like to make uh, uh, to their home before they sell,
Correct.
or older people, and I deal with a lot of older people, and as people get up in age and their income goes down, and because they're on fixed incomes, their houses tend to not be in the best condition by the time they decide to sell.
Correct.
So because of that, now they're thinking, well, my house is in bad shape, so the only one that's going to buy it is this guy on TV that says, "Hey, I'll buy your house. I don't care how ugly it is. We'll buy it."
Mhm.
And I have to admit, those commercials are compelling, especially if you're, like I said, an older person with a house that needs some repairs.
Mm.
Um, and it just the whole idea just it seems very predatory.
So
What do you think?
what do you think should be the case?
What do I think should be the case?
Mhm.
Um, well, before I answer that question, I want to get your opinion.
Well,
Now, what do you think of that segment of the market that exists, um, and
I
that
think
is
I think that yes, they do well. They do offer a solution to a very specific type of client. So yeah, if you go to, let's say, here in LA, in South Central LA, Huntington Park, you'll see in almost most every corner a sign that says "We buy houses." Compramos casas. We buy houses. As is, no, just we buy it all cash, no matter what the condition. And yeah, I mean, they comes with a caveat. They will say, hey, your house is worth, let's say, average price is 800. We're going to offer you 600. Now it's up to the homeowner to accept that offer or not. So it is still a very capitalistic, very free market type thing, laissez-faire in essence. So I would say that those who are looking to sell, because I have worked on both sides, as an agent, as a wholesaler, as an investor, and I did come across this idea like, man, why am I offering lower price? But at the same time, the investor is buying this property without knowing what's going to happen in the future, only with a vague idea that yes, perhaps it's going to worth this much, but the risk is taken by the investor. The seller, they know they're going to get this set amount. For example, let's say it's 600,000, but they could have probably purchased the house for 200. So still they're going to make a profit of 400,000, and then that's enough for them to go to the next stage of their life. And they don't want to deal with the negotiations, showing whatnot. Let me give you an example. I did come across one couple. These were elderly, and they were very particular of not showing the house, no matter what. They say, you want the house, you have to buy it as is, sight unseen. I did list it, by the way, and I did get it for an offer market value higher. So it was over asking price. They cancel the contract. Why? Because the buyer wanted to see the house. And they saw it once, but they want to do the inspection and they want to do the walkthrough.
Mm.
The ladies did not care. And then they came to me and say, Gary, we sell it to you for less than whatever it is. Just we don't want to deal with people. We bought this house back in, they bought it for $76,000.
Mhm.
You can take a guess how long ago that was us, but they were okay
Right.
with it. So when I talk to different investors in this scenario, they say like it has to be fair. Like we are not the one who decide what is fair to the seller. The investors offer what they offer. and whoever accept. It's not a forceful situation. Of course, there were caveats. Let's say if you are in a pre-foreclosure situation, notice of default, where you need to get away with it. And but then again, if there's enough equity, you don't have to sell. You can refinance and get a loan. The investor route is usually the last step, especially here in Southern California, where this information is. There's actually advocates that help people that are in notice of default foreclosure to keep the property. And if you drag, I don't want to say drag long enough, but if you hold your property long enough, the equity is going to go high enough where you can refinance. It's uncanny. Especially, we'll talk about, I did say predatorial, but now think about like, well, we come scenarios like, and I do come in scenarios where, well, it's not, you do probate. I dealt with a lot of people that are in NODs and they need to sell. They have 6 months and they can extend that to another 3 to 6 months. Within a year, you know how much equity the property grow in Southern California. Try 5, 6, 8%. So if your home was worth, let's say, 700, 6 months or 12 months from now, it will worth at least 50,000. So 50,000, you can pull that out. That's more than enough to pay for your mortgage. And you have your property in the last 10 years, 20 years, $50,000 is enough to pay to court for a sizable amount of, like we'll say, back mortgage. So to play devil's advocate, yes, there's going to be a lot of people trying to offer their cash offers, but at the same time, usually is the ones that are doing bad and taking advantage. That will be maybe the 10% that are doing very bad, and that is not enough to say that the whole industry is not offering a service and a solution. When you need quick cash and you need to go, then that's where you go to investors. Is it right for everybody? No, but neither is listing. And let me give you a caveat also. Remember in 2003, beginning of 2003, 2023, last year, when the interest rates shoot up from 2%, 2.5% to 3 to 4 to 6 to 7, guess who lost in that situation? Investors.
The lenders.
Yeah, the investors.
Right.
Because the lenders are not on the hook with the loan. It's the investors, those who have Harmony loan. Do you know how many investors or wannabe investors lost their shirt that they got repossessed? Nobody cared much about the investors because that's the risk that they took. So
no, yeah, you're right. You're right. And look, I understand, I understand your position. One is notice of default, good example, but a small example.
yes.
There are very few notice of defaults out there right now. Which tells me that the average person that's selling to these cash investors is not a notice of default.
No.
It's somebody who is wanting to sell or needing to sell.
Yes.
One or the other. So, and it's not fair for you to appeal to the capitalist side, because the capitalist side of me says, well, wait a minute, you're right. Who is taking the risk? The investor is taking the risk. So I get that. I get that, that there should be reward for the risk that you take. So, but that said, you also brought up that in some of the low income areas that there are signs everywhere that says that we'll buy your house cash.
Yes.
And so in a sense, it's and I don't know how many of those cash investors actually purchase homes, but my guess is if with that many signs, they're going to get, they're going to find a fair amount of potential sellers. So my point being that if you've got the same sort of saturation in those low income areas that you do on television, and you've got, again, people that are maybe not very tech savvy, older people that are thinking, well, I either need to sell, want to sell, and my house needs work, and I keep seeing on TV somebody's telling me that they'll buy the house no matter what the condition is. So let me at least make that phone call. And I've never talked to any of these guys, but I'm assuming that they are very persuasive because they're able to convince a older, 80-year-old woman to sell her home at 200,000 less than she could have sold it if she would have listed it and sold and if I would have listed it for her. So they're, obviously they're very persuasive. Yeah, so you mentioned, well, it's fair market. It's just whatever, no one's no one's forcing them to sell to this company. But you also had, and you were in lending, or you remember the days of predatory lending
Yeah,
where the subprime loans were being made and and the targets were mostly elderly people,
yeah,
elderly fixed income people, and the government went in there and they shut them down.
yeah.
Because they were, they could have, you had somebody who could have gotten a conventional loan at whatever the rate was at the time, let's call it
Mm.
5%, but instead they talked to somebody who was very persuasive, who gave them a 7, 8, 9% loan. Um, so the government basically said, "Hey, this is predatory. You're taking advantage of somebody who's uninformed." The question then I'm asking is where why could lending be predatory but not investors and cash investing? Why is that not why is there that line not drawn on the investor side? It's okay, you can't do predatory lending, but you can buy an older person's property way below market because they didn't know any better. That to me sure sounds like predatory activity to me.
That is a stretch. I will say that. Um,
A stretch.
that's
I
a
thought
stretch. We're
I thought
taking
I thought it did a good job
that's a
of
stretch of the logic. Our time is actually past, but let's do this though. Let me try to address this. We're assuming that these people do not know what's the value of the property. That's one. And with the technology nowadays, all you have to do, if you go to Google, type your address, and the first 3 searches, top 10, will show you the value of property. Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com is going to show your property value is this much. And as conservative that Zillow is, they will show you actually within 10-20% of the value of your property. So an investor will have to pay you 200,000 less than the property's value. So you kind of have an idea. You do a quick search. That's one. Second, the reason that these type of deals are not regulated as much by the government is mainly because they don't make a dent on the economy. Most of the property, like for example, you do a for sale by owner. How many for sale by owners are not hiring a realtor within 6 months? 70%. For sale by owners, you try to sell yourself, and we know that it's a seller's market, and you can still get a good offer and can sell yourself, but yet the for sale by owners don't sell themselves, and the ones that get hit the most are for sale by owners are investors. So, and the elderly, well, let's look at this. I mean, what is the overall population of elderly? Like, what is the percentage of elderly that owns properties? They are selling, and the ones that are not selling, they probably would give that as an inherent as a will to the kids. So they don't have a big impact on the economy because it's not that many of the deals. And most of the investors, they don't make a deal in a year. Like they don't actually. They are like, they fade away. We do have a friend in common that was actually part of this franchise. We're not going to say name, but that he actually invested in buying, this franchise to buy property for cash. And I did check up with him, and within 9 months, I remember clearly, 9 months, he said he's done. He spent thousands and thousands of dollars and got nothing to show for. So yeah, investors, I mean, I think that they're taking the blunt of the blame, but it's not a feasible business. If you are in real estate and you try to make money in flipping, good luck with that. It's not working. So that's what I would say. Like that the free market is going to fade them away.
Well, no, understood. You're right. It's got to, the free market has its own system that is either you're going to survive or you're not, based on whether you have a feasible business model. I but your point of, well, the numbers just aren't high enough. There aren't enough elderly people selling homes, and because of that, it's not making a dent, or it's not getting it that much attention. I still think that just one person, that one old lady that, could have gotten a lot more money. I think that she was not happy. I kept in touch with her. She wanted to get out of that agreement. They would not let her out.
Mm,
And to your point, Gary, they do provide a service, and they did let her stay in the home for several months while she was, they gave her several months to stay there. They basically gave her the money. They closed, um, and that allowed her to buy another home. So
yeah.
so I'll give you that. And she was able to stay in that home while, while she was looking for another home. So there's value in that. I get that. But at the end of the day, she still ended up getting about $200,000 less. And when she looked at the numbers,
Mm-hmm.
she basically said, had I known that I was going to take that much I was going to use the word haircut, of a loss or a difference, I never would have done it.
Well,
Um,
let me interject in this one. Then that is why having a realtor is important. But yet, look at the name, the reputation that we have realtors. People try to circumvent using a realtor because of the commission. Because of that one thing, they go, oh, I don't want to pay for commission, so I want to use an investor. Whose fault is that then? Maybe we should take the fault ourselves as realtors for not I would say, having a good name. Like, where did that stem from? Like, yeah, well, the NAR lawsuit, we lost that because we are seen as greedy bastards. That's how it is. So, and we're losing left and right. We are next to, not to say anything bad to other jobs or your professions, but we're like used car salesmen. In fact, we're worse than used car salesmen now. We're the joke, the butt of all jokes of
speak
professions.
for yourself.
So,
Speak for yourself, Gary.
right? I mean, we see it. I see it, and
No, yes, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
we,
But actually, this is and I know we're way over time, but so I'd like to propose this as the perfect ending to this conversation.
yeah,
That that the solution then is hire us.
yes, the solution is
Hire
hire a
us.
realtor. At least
Yeah.
talk to a realtor and compare. The reason that lady didn't talk to you after the fact is because she didn't trust the investors. But then, well, I guess I go to the devil and talk to Frank then. No choice. You are like, I have the no choice guy. Fine, let me go to the third plate, the second choice. A, B, and C. You're the D student. Let me talk to the D student. I don't like that.
Yeah, no, and part of it was that, part of the attractiveness of going with that company is you're right. They kept saying, they kept
No
pushing two
commission.
things. Yes, three things. No repairs. Your
Mm-hmm.
house looks terrible, and
That's,
but we'll buy it as is, so you don't have to make any repairs. Two, we're gonna let you stay in the house for a while,
yeah,
while you buy another house. And three, and here's the big one,
no
you
commission.
don't have to pay a commission to
Don't pay
those.
those bastards.
Yeah,
So the only reason that lady talked to you is again because you are the last choice. Instead of talking to you first, they went straight to the investors.
no, No, I spoke to her first. And then but
Oh
no,
my
I
God.
did. No, I did speak to her first, and she just wasn't ready. At least she told me that she just wasn't. She said, "Let's keep in touch, but I'm not going to move until summer." And and I did keep in touch. I called her before summer, but by then she had already seen a commercial on TV, called them. They sent somebody over. That person told her exactly what I told you. Your house needs a lot of work. It was all cosmetic. It wasn't going to be a very expensive I don't even think she would have had to fix it. She could have sold it as is. But they said, look, your house is terrible. You're gonna have trouble selling it. No one's gonna want to buy it because your house needs repairs. Number two, we're gonna close now, and then you can go buy your dream home with the money, and we'll let you stay here while you do that. And number three, no commissions. And
Again,
that all just,
uh,
all that added up to enough for her to say, where do I sign?
again,
The bat, yeah,
the value proposition was strong enough for her not to ask for a second opinion and to go for it. I cannot fault the investor. All I can say is we're all adults. Like saying that someone's elderly. Here's one thing that I want to share, and it's kind of like tangent, but it's off topic. But it's kind of related. You know that the human brain, we do not slow down and we do not limit our capacity. It expand. Our brain is capable to attain all this information. In fact, the older you are, the wiser and the more information you're capable of taking. Unless you have some sort of mental disease or, but your brain is capable of so much more. And we're not giving enough, I would say, credit to ourselves. And the elderly, those are the ones that can actually process more information better than us. Look at Warren Buffett. Look at Bill Gates. The billionaires and the most powerful people are the oldest. The oldest. Look at our president. Our next president is either going to be Donald Trump or the previous president, Joe Biden. They're elderly, right? Like this is the oldest we have in our leadership. Why is that?
un,
Because they're sharp.
understood. Gary understood, and you're absolutely right. There's no reason to suspect that somebody, because they're older, is diminished in their ability to make decisions.
Yeah,
Again, unless it's some sort of extreme.
yeah.
Um, but that said, why is it that most of the scams are that most of the people that fall for scams are the elderly? And I think and maybe it has to do with something totally different.
I, I,
They Hold on, let me finish. This maybe has something to do with something totally different. They could have been brought up at a time when we were all more trusting. Um, so maybe it's that, you were brought up at a time when you didn't have to look over your shoulder. I know you want to make a point. Um, and that factor that in with just changes in technology and how things are done and how information is passed on. Um, all that could be it could be either very confusing, or that information could be twisted around in such a way where it makes sense. They think they're making a good decision. When somebody wires $100,000 over to Moscow
scam
because they
escrow.
yeah, because they think that they're getting something positive in return, or because for whatever reason, they're obviously there's something to it that made them think that either I have to do this or it's a good decision.
Frank,
And the information was twisted
we
around.
have 1 minute left, but I just want to add this real quick. You say that the one who's been scammed the most. I actually looked into this information a little while ago because I even watched a movie of it. It's called like Slaughtering Pigs. It's a Chinese movie. Anyways, do you know that the one who gets scammed the most are actually single male, single males? Yeah,
If it has to do with somehow dating, then
it's
then
money.
huh?
Yeah, single
Money
males, like
single
single heterosexual males over the age of, I don't know, 20, whatever it is, up to like 60, are the one who's been scammed the most, more than elderly by a big margin. You should look into that. So, and if you want to watch a movie, it's called Slaughtering Pigs. is very interesting. Yeah, it is documented. The ones who get the scam the most are males, and you don't know that because they don't come out and say I got scammed. It's embarrassing.
Okay, Gary, our next topic, we can that could be our next topic is uh is 20-year-old men being scammed.
Yeah.
Um I and when it comes to dating, I could see how that could happen.
Yes.
Um but when it comes to, again, just the elderly, I could see how information could be twisted around in such a way where the elderly, being probably more trusting than younger people, how they would